Thomas Tuchel's official England squad just dropped, and man, it's definitely turning some heads. Today we are reacting to the roster and breaking down the biggest red flags. Because there are some massive omissions here. Absolutely glaring gaps in this team. Let's kick off with the goalkeepers. Honestly, this is the strongest trio he could have picked for the national team. Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson and James Trafford. Exactly the three shot stoppers I would have chosen. Pickford is the undisputed number one, especially after the elite domestic season he just had. Dean Henderson is Crystal Palace's captain now, a rock-solid backup. If Pickford picks up a knock, Henderson is more than ready to step up in goal. Then there is James Trafford. I know fans are shouting for Nick Pope or Aaron Ramsdale, but Trafford is easily the best young keeper in the country. He is locked in as our future number one. Getting a taste of major tournament experience with this travelling squad is absolutely massive for him. Being in camp for weeks, learning the system, training daily with the first team, it all preps him to eventually take the gloves from Pickford. To me, the keeper selection is flawless. Zero complaints. Now, let's look at the right backs. Tuchel really shook things up here, didn't he? At least in the fans' eyes. Reece James obviously had to be on the plane. The Chelsea captain is nailed on as the starting right back. When you look closely at this squad, the starting 11 is pretty much set in stone. Aside from maybe one spot out on the left wing, which we will get into later, Reece James is definitely locking down that right flank. But looking at the rest of the defence, there is immense pressure on him to play the vast majority of these minutes. We are talking brutal heat and a game every 4 days. We all know James struggles with injuries and keeping his match fitness up. The weight of the world is on him to stay healthy for the entire tournament run, simply because there is no Trent Alexander-Arnold waiting on the bench to bail us out. Not exactly a shocker though, is it? The writing was on the wall. Trent was left out of the extended training camp during the last international break. Honestly, it feels like Tuchel never even considered cooling him up during the entire preparation phase. And leaving Trent at home kicked the door wide open for other defensive options, namely Tino Livramento. Let's break down Tino's role. Right off the bat, he is a massive future-proofing move for England's right flank. He is versatile enough to slide over to left back too. Tuchel clearly prioritised players who can cover multiple spots on the pitch. Guys who can operate a right back, left back or slot right into different midfield roles or across the front line. Tino fits that mould. But honestly, his season at Newcastle was so rough that fans in my comment section were actually saying they would gladly sell Tino Livramento if a decent bid came in. He only managed 14 Premier League starts all year, and he is fresh off a pretty serious injury. He must have seriously impressed Tuchel behind closed doors. Whether it is his character or tactical discipline, the manager clearly trusts his impact for this tournament. Because if you listen to Tuchel speaking to the press earlier this afternoon, he sounded obsessed with team culture. He is building a squad based on the right personalities in the dressing room, instead of just grabbing the flashiest talents available. Which makes total sense. We are talking about an 8-week camp. That is a brutal amount of time away from home. You need guys who will fight for each other. He kept emphasizing this brotherhood he wants to create, and I fully respect that approach. Fans never see the actual grind behind closed doors at these training camps. We have no clue how these egos interact when the cameras are off. Sometimes you just have to trust the process and take Thomas Tuchel at his word. But we still have to talk football. We need to be real and ask if Trent Alexander-Arnold would have given this England side a serious tactical advantage down that right flank. In my mind, the answer is a massive yes. I look at our fullbacks and I see a real lack of playmaking. If England are chasing a game late, I just do not see where the magic comes from out wide. Nico O'Reilly does offer attacking danger, just in a totally different style. Guardiola uses him to crash the penalty area, attacking the last defensive line, or cutting inside to overload the central midfield. Reece James is a weapon, obviously. Elite set pieces, absolute pinpoint crosses into the box. But what happens if his hamstring goes again? Suddenly the whole backline goes dry. That worries me. Anyway, moving on to left back. Nico O'Reilly is starting now. That is just a fact. I would have started him regardless. He brings goals, drops into midfield beautifully, and covers ground like a machine. As Tuchel pointed out to the media today, he is heavily focused on dead ball situations. He wants raw aerial presence. He views set pieces as our ace in the hole, and Nico O'Reilly, with that incredible leaping ability and heading threat we constantly see at Manchester City, could be an absolute weapon for the national side too. He has literally headed in goals during cup finals for City playing up high. I bet Tuchel plans to deploy him the exact same way, but missing Lewis Hall as his backup? Honestly, this is the most baffling omission of the entire squad. I heard Tuchel try to explain it this afternoon, and it still makes zero sense to me. Hall is simply our best pure young left-back. Sure, O'Reilly can play there, but his DNA is really in the midfield. And up front, O'Reilly is just not a traditional defender. Actually, back in the academy days, he literally played as a number 10. Lewis Hall is the most natural defensive prospect we have on the left. His club season was phenomenal. Honestly, he might be Newcastle's player of the year, elite with the ball at his feet, shutting down world-class wingers in pure one-on-one matchups. Take guys like Lamine Yamal. I have watched Hall completely dominate the pitch against top-tier Premier League giants time and time again. Yet somehow, he cannot even crack a 26-man tournament roster. Absolutely crazy call in that position. Just a bizarre tactical choice. Oh, and zero room for Luke Shaw on the left side either. To some degree, I get why he missed out on Tuchel's early training camps. Tuchel hasn't truly had the chance to sit down and map things out with him. Regardless, his season at Manchester United was absolutely stellar. It was actually his highest minute tally ever in a single Premier League campaign. If he starts on Sunday, it marks his first ever 38-game sweep in a season. So if Lewis Hall stays behind, surely Luke Shaw is your locked-in left-back. Sure, his body might be running on fumes lately. He clearly carries past fitness baggage, and grinding out matches every 4 days in that blistering heat is a brutal task. But if his role is strictly playing backup to Nico O'Reilly, is his major tournament pedigree and solid Premier League form not enough to grab a seat on the plane? That is a massive question mark right there. And that created a perfect opening for Jade Spence. His inclusion probably caught plenty of fans off guard, but to be totally honest, I saw it coming. If you tracked how Thomas Tuchel used Jade Spence during recent training camps and heard him praise the defender, especially praising his raw, aggressive physicality, I was fully convinced he was making Tuchel's final roster for the plane. I know he is still recovering from that nasty broken jaw. I would imagine he steps onto the pitch wearing a protective face mask, but Thomas Tuchel clearly rates him as a one-on-one defender higher than almost anyone else in the squad. That is the core reason he got the call-up. He picked a squad built to handle multiple chaotic game states. There will be moments where England sits deep, fighting for breath against an absolute lightning bolt of a winger. Tuchel fully trusts that Jade Spence can lock that kind of player down. Quansah and Mark Guehi were absolute certainties for this trip. They are securely locked in as Tuchel's starting defensive duo, exactly as they were during nearly every single preliminary camp. In fact, Quansah has probably logged more minutes under Tuchel than anyone else. That makes him the undeniable first-choice centre-back in Tuchel's tactical vision. The manager loves his raw athleticism. He loves his one-on-one dominance. Quansah had a phenomenal season, driving Aston Villa into the Champions League, conquering Europe, and thriving under absolute pressure cooker environments. Massive respect there. Quansah absolutely earned his ticket, and he deserves to start. You can say the exact same thing about Mark Guehi. We really don't need to overthink that one. John Stones making the final cut definitely raised some eyebrows among the England fan base, considering his 4 measly Premier League starts. But realistically, Tuchel was never leaving him behind. I never had a single doubt that Thomas Tuchel would draft John Stones. Even if he only stepped on the pitch once all season, his elite experience speaks volumes. Add in his elite ball carrying, plus how deeply he anchors Tuchel's core group behind closed doors, and he instantly becomes a vital puzzle piece. He is going to be a heavy locker room leader. Tuchel will absolutely lean on that veteran presence to steady the ship. Honestly, expect him to log a shocking number of minutes. His spot was set in stone. Now, Jarell Quansah is a genuinely fascinating shout. I never saw Quansah making this final list. But then again, hearing the manager today, he called Jarell Quansah our most versatile asset. Quote, the only defender we have got who can slot into all 4 positions across the back line. He truly believes Quansah can cover left back, both centre-back spots, and right back. That caught me totally off guard. Look, he undeniably had a massive season for Leverkusen, and he brings a totally different flavour compared to our other centre-half options, boasting wicked athleticism and dominant aerial presence. But dropping Harry Maguire completely to make room for Jarell Quansah is a massive gamble. Then again, leaving Maguire off the plane didn't totally shock me either. I remember Thomas Tuchel standing at a recent England presser, straight up admitting he ranks guys like Trevoh Chalobah above Maguire now. It all comes down to pure mobility. In my book, Maguire had to make this squad. He was essential for his locker room leadership, his major tournament reps, and his absolute menace in both penalty boxes. Thomas Tuchel just spent 2 solid hours hyping up how crucial England's set pieces will be, yet I am staring right at this roster. Nobody on this sheet attacks a dead ball quite like Harry Maguire. And more importantly, nobody clears out a crowded penalty box better than him either. The guy is a total aerial machine. He is comfortable on the ball, and he genuinely thrives when dropping into a deep defensive block. Picture this. England is holding on to a narrow lead against France, and the clock shows exactly 5 minutes left. Who do you want stepping off the bench to lock that game down, Quansah or Maguire? It is Maguire every single time. He belonged on this flight. Finally, Dan Burn. The logic there actually makes perfect sense. You get another left-footed centre-half, sure. But you also need those massive backstage personalities to glue the squad together for 8 straight weeks. And Dan Burn specializes in exactly that. The entire dressing room loves the guy. He plays the big brother role perfectly while still delivering serious on-pitch quality. Tuchel clearly bets on Dan Burn being the ultimate set-piece weapon, bringing that exact same physical chaos we usually expect from Maguire. But for me, if it came down to a straight shootout between Burn and Maguire, I am picking Maguire every time. I am really curious how you guys feel about his exclusion. You happy he got dropped or gutted? Anyway, let us push up into the midfield. Time to talk about the absolute nailed-on starters. Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson. These two are clearly the starting midfield duo. Zero debate required. They have been the best English holding midfielders in the Premier League by an absolute country mile. I love their chemistry. Elliot Anderson is literally fielding £100 million transfer rumours. He is easily the standout deep-lying anchor here, freeing up Declan Rice to push higher as a dynamic number 8. That yin and yang dynamic, absolutely brilliant to watch. They simply had to go. And yes, Jordan Henderson made the flight too. Not a shocker to me. I was firmly convinced Tuchel would bring Jordan Henderson along exactly like Dan Burn, mainly for his massive off-pitch leadership and steadying influence. His leadership. The way he drags teammates through grueling sessions and glues the whole squad together, we just don't see those hidden details. As fans or creators, we can't really judge dressing room dynamics. We don't know which personalities actually hold the team together behind closed doors, but Jordan Henderson clearly does exactly that. That is why I can't definitively say he shouldn't be there, especially when we have no clue what happens behind the scenes. Adam Wharton, Alex Scott, and James Garner all enjoyed better seasons. We need to talk about them. Kobbie Mainoo is on the plane, and rightly so. He had an absolutely sensational season, and we cannot ignore that. He has been unbelievable. Mainoo offers a totally different dynamic compared to our other midfielders, especially when driving the ball from deep areas. Picture this: Declan Rice needs a breather, and Mainoo steps right into that midfield. He dictates play from deep, but also poses a serious threat pushing forward. He scores massive game-winning goals. We saw it at Manchester United repeatedly. I guarantee Thomas Tuchel factored that clutch gene into his final choice. Mainoo had to go. No debate. But let's look at who missed out. Wharton. Honestly, not a shock. I doubt Thomas Tuchel ever viewed him as the top choice, not even to back up Elliot Anderson. To me, he always ranked Jordan Henderson higher. He probably had James Garner ahead of him too. Don't forget, Tuchel recently called James Garner his own Federico Valverde, the second he dropped that, quote, "I knew Adam Wharton was in trouble. I figured he might miss the cut entirely. Look, there is zero doubt he has a massive future for England. He is a ridiculously gifted technical player. I just think Thomas Tuchel prefers a completely different profile in midfield. The manager demands pure energy, heavy physicality, and ground-eating stamina from that number 6 role. That simply isn't Wharton's game. It is absolutely James Garner's game, though. He covered more distance than anyone else in an Everton shirt. He recorded the most defensive duels of any player in the Premier League. An absolute machine off the ball. He contributed heavily on the ball too, so he will be absolutely crushed to stay home. I genuinely thought he could travel as Anderson's backup, but Henderson clearly took that spot. Honestly, that is a massive point of debate. I was 50-50 on bringing James Garner myself. I probably would have taken Adam Wharton, but Thomas Tuchel dropped them both. Then there's Alex Scott. He flies to the US with the practice squad just in case of injury, and he deserves it. The kid is an absolute terror without the ball. He still shows brilliant quality in possession. I expect him to secure a massive transfer this summer. He is incredibly unlucky to miss out on those forward midfield slots. Seeing Jordan Henderson make the squad will divide the fan base. His inclusion likely forced guys like Scott, Wharton and Garner out of the picture entirely. Jude Bellingham, Morgan Rogers and Eberechi Eze are the guys I wanted. Bellingham is an undisputed starter. Like I mentioned before, the starting 11 is becoming crystal clear right now. We are looking at a central trio of Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham. That trio offers perfect balance. You get elite athleticism out of possession. You get pure creativity from Jude. Rice drives the ball forward beautifully and they all tackle hard. All three bring relentless energy to the pitch. Jude slots in perfectly as the starting number 10. But England also boasts some serious game changers waiting on the bench. Morgan Rogers and Eze proved all season long that they can crack games wide open with magic from outside the box. That has to be why Thomas Tuchel picked them. Hitting long-range screamers is a specialty for both of those playmakers. Both players consistently smash their expected goals metrics. They unlock stubborn defenses. Behind the scenes, both are massive characters. The squad loves them. Honestly, Eze is one of the most genuine guys off the pitch I have ever spoken to. I completely understand why Tuchel wants his aura in the dressing room. But three big names missed out on that specific role. Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, and Morgan Gibbs-White. Let's kick things off with Cole Palmer. That exclusion will leave fans totally stunned. Given his sheer ability to flip a match from the bench, I am shocked he stayed home. But hearing Tuchel explain why he dropped Palmer, Tuchel felt his impact faded at Chelsea late in the season. With his form dipping, the manager likely questioned his character and influence off the pitch. What does Cole actually bring to the squad dynamic? Tuchel clearly preferred Rogers and Eze instead. Palmer will be gutted. Dropping Phil Foden feels slightly less shocking, but hearing Tuchel speak, it sounds like Foden sat higher than Palmer on the depth chart but narrowly missed out. Judging by his tone today, Tuchel seemed genuinely heartbroken to leave Foden behind. He simply couldn't find his rhythm late in the campaign, and that wasn't enough to justify a call-up. I found it fascinating when the manager openly admitted he doesn't even know what Phil Foden's best position is. Is he a pure number 10? A false 9? Tuchel even wondered aloud if Foden could eventually step in as a true number 8 to replace Bernardo Silva. Drifting between roles and lacking consistent minutes ultimately cost Foden his ticket to the tournament. Honestly, I am not completely surprised. I was stunned, however, when Palmer and Foden missed out and Morgan Gibbs-White still didn't get the nod. He was the highest scoring Englishman in the Premier League. I cannot believe they found no room for Gibbs-White on this roster. I absolutely would have brought him to tear down the wing. He shifted out wide for Forest lately and looked incredibly dangerous doing it. There had to be a spot for a player like him. Gibbs-White and Harry Maguire are massive omissions in my book. Moving to the front line, Bukayo Saka is obviously our starting right winger. He is finally returning to peak form. There was never a shadow of a doubt about him boarding that flight. There was intense debate around the Noni Madueke situation though. I personally always believed Thomas Tuchel would bring Madueke along. He's used him constantly in these international friendlies. Every single time Sakura picked up a knock, Madueke stepped in to grab those minutes. Honestly, Mawi has looked totally off the pace for Arsenal this football season. He has taken absolute pelters from the Arsenal fans and everyone else. But pulling on that England shirt, he's been massive. Super dangerous taking defenders on in 1-versus-1 situations against deep blocks. Jarell Bowen can count himself incredibly unlucky here. Of course he can. His goal-scoring stats completely dwarf Nani Madueke, even though Bowen hasn't actually found the back of the net since early March. But honestly, I wasn't shocked at all seeing Jarell Bowen left out of this squad list. It always felt like Thomas Tuchel was leaning heavily towards starting Madueke anyway. Then again, from where I am sitting, if the choice is Mad Bowen or Gibbs-White out on that right flank, I would personally back Gibbs-White to do the job. Out on the left side, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Gordon were always nailed on. They were locked in as the number 1 and number 2 options for that left wing role. Never a single shred of doubt about those two making the cut. Rashford is likely walking into that starting lineup. Honestly, that starting 11 basically picks itself at this point. Pickford, James, Quansah, Guehi, O'Reilly, Anderson, Rice, Bellingham, Saka, Rashford, Kane. It just picks itself. But that brings us to the biggest, most shocking inclusion in this entire roster. Ivan Toney. Just wow. I totally missed this one. Did any of you see it coming? Back in my March squad predictions, I did pick Ivan Toney. But for this latest roster, I thought he had zero chance. Now, Thomas Tuchel actually explained his logic for picking Ivan Toney. Reason number one, if England has 15 minutes left, chasing a game, down 1-0, Tuchel believes Toney is our absolute best attacking option to pair up with Harry Kane, form a front two, and cause pure chaos inside the penalty area. He also brought this up during that exact same TalkSport interview. He admitted it was a 51 to 49% coin toss between taking Toney or calling up Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who could have played that exact same target man role right next to Harry Kane. Let's be brutally honest. He picked Toney because the man is an absolute penalty expert. Tuchel is clearly obsessed over the data. He is building a hit squad of ideal penalty takers from across the league, handling pressure scenarios, and he trusts Toney to be one of his crucial 5. I see a 100% chance of this happening. England face a shootout. 119th minute. Toney gets subbed on strictly to smash a spot kick. He has buried pressure penalties for England before, and his conversion rate at Brentford was just utterly ridiculous. He's also scored loads of goals in Saudi this year. Truthfully though, I haven't watched any of his Saudi matches, and Thomas Tuchel hasn't watched a single Ivan Toney match in person in Saudi either. That makes this one of the most heavily debated roster selections yet. Could he have benched Toney and called up Gibbs-White instead, brought in another central midfielder, or even thrown Trent into the mix? That's a massive talking point right there. But as for Harry Kane and Ollie Watkins, there was absolutely nothing to debate. Harry Kane is starting every single match he's fit for. Meanwhile, Ollie Watkins is riding a blistering hot streak, 11 goals in 14 games. The man was absolute dynamite closing out this football season, totally forcing his way into national team contention. So, those are my takes on this England lineup. What are you thinking? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Thomas Tuchel get this horribly wrong, or is he actually a tactical genius? If you enjoyed the breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.